Getting the smile and confidence you've been dreaming about, all from the comfort of your home, isn't a total mystery with Byte clear aligners. Just don't be surprised if all your friends start asking, "What's your secret?" Begin by ordering your at-home impression kit today for only $14.95. Byte clear aligners are doctor-directed and delivered to your door. Treatment costs thousands less than braces, plus they offer flexible financing, accept eligible insurance, and you can pay with your HSA FSA. Get 80% off your impression kit when you use code WONDERY at Byte.com. That's BYTE.com. Start your confidence journey today with Byte.
Welcome to Criminality, the podcast that we started because we love true crime, we love reality TV. We were curious about when the two intersect, and boy, do they. Melissa, hi.
Hi, Rebekah. How are you?
Good. You good?
I'm always on the edge of my seat how you're going to start it because it takes a little bit of a turn. It's a journey.
It is. Every time, we want to keep it consistent yet fresh. It's hard.
Yeah, you're doing a great job. And we have 2 weeks to think about it every time and still.
And yet, winging it every single time. Speaking of fresh, the picture behind you is the opposite.
Yeah, I wasn't feeling great. I went for a walk and felt kind of gross to be recording. And I thought, what would make me feel better? And that is PK's teeth. If I stand in front of an old picture of PK's teeth, which were on the show, I'm not making fun of him. They literally proudly displayed them on that Homeless Not Toothless episode, then I look like a shining star in front of it. I don't think I've ever looked better.
I'm gonna have to agree. Also, I was not prepared. There is no coffee. There's no amount of coffee in the world I could drink to brace myself for that image. But yeah, no harm in sharing that because PK and Dorit shamelessly showed those befores and afters because that got that service for free.
Absolutely. And I'm actually hoping maybe I could get some work done for free just by showing this again.
Honestly, no, they'll look at you and be like, your teeth are perfect because they, like mine, in contrast to that image, look perfect.
True. In contrast, I'm doing okay.
Yeah. I honestly belly laughed at the Homeless Not Toothless scene where none of them could get the name right.
Right? It is, I appreciate the point, and it's wonderful that they're offering this service. It is a really amazing service to be able to give. The name is just so tragic. It's
all wrong on every level.
Who approved it and then kept approving it and filed an LLC to approve it? I feel like that's where the government steps in and says, I don't think this is what you want to do.
Or like some donor should step in. I feel like it was the afterthought. It's like, hey, we realize there's this problem and we could really help homeless people who are trying to improve their life and get work by giving them dental work. Like such a great idea. Absolutely. Like the concept makes total sense. Someone's like, oh shoot, we forgot to name it right at the end when they got everything in place. They're like, well, Homeless Not Toothless, because they might be homeless, but they shouldn't be toothless. And no.
That sounded like a Jerry Seinfeld bit. You got into that inflection at the end, but that's what it sounds like. It is wild.
That's how insane it is. I know. Like, yeah, I wish we could help with a rebrand, but I'll wait for them to ask. I won't chime in.
Yeah.
They've had enough buzz about them for the moment.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Well, should we jump right in?
Let's do it.
Okay. Melissa, I'm going to set the scene. Just imagine yourself in it. Are you ready?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. The year is 2007. You're a hopeful contestant on the UK edition of the business competition reality show, The Apprentice. On this show, you get advice from some of UK's top men and women in business, including one interviewer who is brought on to interrogate you, who is known mostly by his nickname, the Rottweiler. You can probably gather how an advisor on this show might get that nickname. But much like Simon Cowell is to American Idol, so too was PK Kemsley to The Apprentice UK.
No idea. Like literally The Apprentice threw me off so much. I should have known it was overseas, did not, but
Well, I
truly no
parsed
idea.
out the UK into a separate clue, so that was a little tricky on my part. But we opened with PK's teeth because we are talking about PK Kemsley. And before we move on, I do need you to just. It's hard to find his seasons on that show because it's
Right.
a British production, and I couldn't get full episodes. But there are YouTube moments. Not, I don't think his most Rottweiler-ish, but I just want you to, you need to hear
I need a
PK
taste of it.
on TV, not on Beverly Hills.
Seem very tense. You're hyper.
I am.
Relax.
I
Take a
am.
seat
Well,
back,
I am
chill.
relaxed, but don't forget, I've got to come across to
Calm,
you.
calm. You don't have to be calm.
I've got to come across to you and justify my points. Okay, so I am up for it without a doubt. This is the way
But
that
you're
I am.
making me want to sit back, yeah?
I'm
Sit
being
back,
a little
relax,
bit.
relax.
Do you think I'm aggressive?
Cool.
No.
Not many. If you take away that unnecessary aggression and the fact that she rarely breathes in, she's actually quite good.
Rebekah, how old is this episode?
I think that's 2000 and
The YouTube clip says 2013, so that's
I was going to
9
say
years
11
ago.
because I don't think it was like posted in the same year that it happened, but
Sure.
I know he was on for a few seasons, one year of which was 2011.
Looks like a different person.
I dare to say PK is aging well.
Honestly, I mean, you like to throw this word around, but if we're going to throw Winsome around, current PK versus this other guy, yeah, he's aging much better. Freaking men, this always
I
happens.
was just going to say, only men.
If you would have just shown me that clip, I don't know that I would have immediately figured out that it was PK.
Yeah, it's more recognizable from his voice than his
Absolutely,
face.
yeah.
PK was doing well at this time, at least until 2008, when the global market and PK's life kind of crashed. It is time to learn more about who we probably more commonly refer to as Dorit's husband. But it turns out he had a whole life and persona before Lisa and Ken introduced him to us on season 7 of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Now, there's been, as you know, and probably most of our listeners know, a lot of speculation and rumor and chatter about PK and Dorit's finances, right? Their leased house where apparently Boy George lives, their debts. Did you know that?
I didn't know Boy George lived there.
Yeah, apparently he lives in their basement. We'll get to it.
Okay.
It's been debated that perhaps the Kemsleys aren't as wealthy as they appear to be, and that they work really hard to appear richer than they are. And
Sure.
look, they wouldn't be the first couple on a Real Housewives franchise to do this. They certainly won't be the last. But because Dorit and PK came onto the show by way of Ken and Lisa, I kind of assumed they ran in their circle. So maybe they
Sure.
are legitimately wealthy. They seem like they would be to run in that circle. But if you recall my previous episode about Yolanda Hadid, Mohammed, her ex, who was a huge real estate developer, broke as a joke. So you never know.
Right.
So all of this made me want to find out what was behind PK's original business ventures, failures, lawsuits, and debts. Also, admittedly, you brought it up, the Winsome factor. I admit, and I think I admitted on the show, that I was starting to, in the spirit of this being a British themed episode, fancy
Sure.
PK. I think he's getting a good edit this season.
Yeah.
And so I was starting to fall prey to his winsomeness. So I thought, let me do some research on him to set me straight, hopefully, because you know what
Thank you.
happens when we start looking into people.
Yeah.
Usually
they're trash.
they're trash. So I'm going to continue. And then, Melissa, you and our listeners can be the judge of the burning question. Is PK Winsome? Okay. No.
Oh.
All right. So in profiles that I read about PK, and there are several, he often attributes a lot of his business success to a guy named Mike Ashley. Mike Ashley is now known as a British billionaire retail entrepreneur who started a chain of sporting goods stores in the UK and went on to own the soccer team, football. I'm going to use football and soccer interchangeably, but we are talking about European football, American
Sure.
soccer this whole episode, and that is the other clue. He owned Newcastle United Football Club, who are part of the Premier League in England. Mike Ashley has many other business accolades. But when PK met Mike, PK was just 15 years old, and he worked with him at a menswear shop selling suits, which tracks, doesn't it? Like,
Totally.
that's where his first, you know, retail and sales training were.
Yep.
Mike was in his mid-20s, and the two became friends. And I interpret what I read as Mike was a bit of a mentor, big brother type to PK. And at age 17, PK left school. And I'm not sure if that meant he left high school and just didn't go on to university, or if he didn't finish high school and just stopped.
Right.
I'm not sure, but he went to work in real estate, first as a land surveyor, then as a sales agent, and he was good at it. You know, got his start selling suits, then he went on to bigger and better things.
Yeah, yeah.
So then he went to join Mike, who had left the menswear shop and was expanding this Sports Direct business. And my understanding is that Sports Direct was a bit like a Sports Authority, or we have Dick's Sporting Goods. I don't know if you have those.
We do.
Just a large retail store where you get all the sporting goods in one place. So he developed this franchise across the UK. So they joined forces with a few other investors, and they started a full real estate development investment company called Rock Joint Ventures. And for a while, the group does really well. PK puts in only 1,800 pounds of his own money. So the other investors were really the ones front loading this business.
Right.
You need a lot more than 1,800 bucks to start a real estate development company. But he brought something besides capital to the table. His business approach was aggressive and high risk. I don't know what the opposite of risk adverse is, so I wrote high risk, but I meant he wasn't afraid of risks. He made big, bold moves. He had confidence, and people like to be around people like that in business.
Yeah.
One of PK's earliest and most successful transactions was purchasing an entire city block of office buildings in central London for $40 million in May 2006. So this is like 10 years into the business, but still he's a young guy at this point. He sold that city block of buildings. He bought it for 40 million pounds, sold it for 72 million pounds in 5 months. So they're successful, and he's very much a business tycoon in London that people know about and talk about. During this time, Mike Ashley was gaining traction in the world of football. And one thing I learned about PK during this is the man loves football, much like my husband. I mean, it's like, you know, the people who love soccer here are just diehards about it, like people are about American football. I don't know. I guess it's no different than any other sport. It's just not as common in America.
Right.
But when you're from the UK, you follow football and like your town as a team. And then there's like the next level league, and then there's the Premier League. And globally, soccer is like the game.
Yeah.
So PK loves it and he wants to be around it. Mike Ashley became owner of the Newcastle team. And Dan Levy, who was another partner in this Rock Joint Ventures, owned the team called Tottenham Hotspur FC, known as the Spurs, which is definitely what we're going to call them. My husband fooled me in this name, and I was like, Tottenham Hotspur, and he's like, Tottenham. I'm like, you're not British. Stop correcting me. Even though I came and asked you. Don't mansplain to me, even when I ask you a question.
You're right.
So PK got a seat at the table, and he served as vice chairman of one of England's premier football clubs, the Spurs. So in terms of business, PK's star was rising. He served in this role from 2001 to 2006. By 2007, Rock Joint Venture is known often as Rock. So when I say Rock, I mean their real estate group was valued at 750 million pounds. Also worth mentioning that in 2007, PK got married, not to Dorit. He married a fellow Brit named Loretta Gold, and the couple had 3 children. I racked my brain, and I did not go back and watch every season. Do you remember him ever talking about kids, or Dorit talking about?
I did know he had kids, but I was under the impression they were like 40. Like I thought they were much older. Like 2007 is not. No. Those are babies.
They're right now young adults. And there's very little published about them publicly, but his Instagram is full of pictures of them. Beautiful young adults named Atlanta, Daniel, and Tatum, 2 girls and a boy. So, yeah, he has 3 other kids in the UK.
That's wild. I mean, obvious. Oh, and they're in the UK? Man, that's
when
tough.
When he moved here after the divorce, I don't know how that worked in terms of like the co-parenting arrangement. I definitely think his ex-wife was the more primary, but it seems that they have a very good relationship now.
Well, I mean, that's great then.
They made it work.
All you can ask for, yeah.
Yeah, and there's not a lot written about it, so I won't speculate other than that I thought their names were cool.
Yeah.
So I mentioned that 2008 financial crash. Everybody was impacted by that, whether you worked in real estate, the mortgage business, just homeowners and just people. We all felt that, but it had a very direct impact on PK's business, but not in the way that everyone experienced, because PK's portfolio of assets, professional and personal, were so leveraged. He owed way more than he could pay back. And he was very much someone who bet on himself. He always had like that confidence, that bravado, that optimism.
Right.
Informed all his choices. But literally he bet on himself, which is actually what ended up getting into trouble.
Truly, that is like not something I've ever been worried about. I will bet on a snake in the grass
Everyone
before I will
but
ever bet on me.
Me.
Yeah.
I guess could use like a dose of that confidence when negotiating or asking for money. Like I'm practically apologize when I bill my clients for the money that they owe me for work I did.
Right? That's what I was going to say. My first thing to say is I'm sorry, and then whatever.
And yeah,
my daughter does it,
Oh,
and I'm like, you have to stop.
good.
Do not do this.
Break that generational curse, I swear. And when I send an invoice, no rush. Like, no, you owe me the money. I've done 30 days of work. Please pay me this week, preferably.
Right.
It's so crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not PK's.
I mean, yeah. Well, good for him, I guess.
Well, is it? Because
doesn't sound
here's
so
what
good.
happened. In addition to real estate, PK was very interested in something called spread betting, which sounds
I don't even like the
kinky.
word.
I know, and like dirty and wrong, but it isn't. I promise. So, do you want to know the actual definition of spread betting? Because I didn't know what it was, unless you.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Clearly, I have no clue.
Here's a disclaimer. I didn't go to business school. I don't have an MBA. The rest of this episode, it was very hard for me. And I can read well, but I didn't understand a lot. So anyone with actual business background, I'm really sorry for the rest of the episode. But here's what I read about spread betting. It's any various type of wagering on the outcome of an event where the payoff is based on accuracy of the wager rather than a simple win or loss outcome. So my understanding is like, you don't just win or lose, you put some mathematical probability out of what else could happen by how much someone might win or lose. And you can do it in multiple options. And it created this whole middle market of ways to make money, I guess, to wager and possibly make money. And it's legal. And it was like new technology. It started in the late 80s, but I guess in like the 90s and early 2000s, tech companies got behind it to find ways of making people be able to spread bet, often on sports games. And PK was an early investor in those companies, and he was really big into it. I wish I could say more about it. I just don't understand it beyond what I just told you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it sounds like, okay, I'm going to bet on the Super Bowl. So I'm not just betting who's going to win. I'm betting what this person's going to score, this person's going to, or this team's going to score, this team's going to score, and how close I am to that gets me more money on my win, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You should go intern for PK.
I would rather not.
This tracks with his affinity for betting. He was considered a whale at London and Las Vegas casinos. Have you heard that term? Because
I have, but I couldn't tell you what it means.
It's the name assigned to people who regularly wager thousands or millions of dollars in a single night at a casino. And it's a bummer to me because I love whales. That's my favorite animal. And I don't love gambling. So now I'm just like, great. Now PK is a whale. Unfair. So this tracks because foreshadowing, we know that he gets into some gambling debts at the Bellagio.
Right.
So all of this tracks, right? But yeah, so he's a whale. He is like a big old London high society tycoon living his best life. I'm now going to break down the downfall as best and simply as I can. When things started falling apart in the real estate and financial market that happened directly within his company. Yeah. So after this crash, Rock Ventures went into administration. Going into administration means that the direct running of the business temporarily transferred to an administrator appointed by a court. They're legally required to be an insolvency practitioner, and the process is instigated by the courts, your creditors, or limited company directors. But what I learned is there's two kinds of administration. You can voluntarily go into that and be like, yikes, we're going under. Let's hand this over to like the powers that be to help us get out, and you can rescue your business. It's like a good faith gesture. Yeah. Or it can be appointed to you, which is like, there's some not good stuff going on here. You have to go into, they say insolvency. I think it's pretty much like a bankruptcy process. Okay. And we're taking over. So at this time, former business partners of PK sued him during this process, saying that he was involved in self-dealing, that's in quotes, transaction around a $35 million personal loan. Again, a new term to me, self-dealing. When a person in charge of the money acts in their own best interest in a transaction rather than in the interest of their client.
Ooh.
I know. So he used investor client money and took out a huge loan from Barclays Bank. Of course, this represents a conflict of interest, and it's an illegal act that can lead to litigation, penalties, termination of employment for those who commit it. But at this time, he leaves his role as vice chairman of the Spurs. He says it's because he wants to focus on real estate in the United States, but rumors are swirling that it's because he had a falling out with these partners because of the lawsuit, and that the writing was on the wall that his empire was about to collapse, and it would not be good for the team if he was their vice chairman. He also left The Apprentice because at this time he was, as we know, the Rottweiler. He was brought on multiple episodes to be the advisor to these young hopefuls, but he left that preemptively, didn't wait to get fired, and he was honest in this, I will say. He said he left because, and I quote, "Who are you to interview anyone? You've just gone bust." So that was
True.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, that bit of self-awareness and honesty, I think, it's a check on the Winsome column for me. PK then says, "I'm done with Rock Joint Ventures. Everything's falling apart." That part, I think, is a little less preemptive and more like he was running from it. He had lawsuits against him, debts in the millions. So he moves to the US to pursue new opportunities. And he also files for bankruptcy in the UK, but moves to the US while that process is happening. So when he declares bankruptcy in England, his debts are around $34 million. After this year-long process, the courts in the UK wipe his slate clean and he's absolved. I think it's more complicated than that, but honestly, we don't have enough time to talk about that bankruptcy. It was messy.
Whoa. Can you imagine though? Like I can't imagine getting myself into
that level.
Just knowing that I have a balance on my credit card statement every night, I'm like, what can I sell around here to get it all? Like, I hate the feeling so much. I can't imagine $35 million.
I also hate that that's absolvable and that you could just move to another country and start new businesses.
Right.
Like, that doesn't seem fair either, because a lot of us are like trying to creatively find ways of, paying off our student loans and our credit card loans. Exactly. And like, there is no option of like just saying I can't other than bankruptcy. It just, for that level, it feels like surely there's got to be a.
Have you ever had that moment when you're leaving the house and you wonder, did I lock the door? Or worse yet, you start spiraling and you imagine all the what ifs. I used to feel that way all the time, but it wasn't until a few years ago when I heard about a break-in just a few blocks away that I realized I needed to really step up my home security game. And now I can spiral about the what ifs on things that don't matter, like reality stars, instead of the what ifs of home security. We've had SimpliSafe protecting our house for the last few years now, and it's a total game changer. With SimpliSafe's Fast Protect monitoring, I know within 5 seconds if something's actually up, and the lifeguards can actually speak to intruders to stop them. That's faster than a reality TV star can throw a drink. One of the things I really love the most is you're not locked into some over-the-top 90-day fiancé level contract drama. SimpliSafe is actually affordable as well, less than $1 a day with no hidden fees, so it's easy to love. It's no wonder they've been named Best Home Security Systems by U.S. News and World Report for 5 years running. Whether you want to install it yourself, it really takes less than an hour, or have a professional handle it, SimpliSafe is as easy as flipping channels between Chimp Crazy and The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. So why wait for the drama to happen? Get SimpliSafe and know your home is covered just like I did. Protect your home with 50% off a new SimpliSafe system, plus a free indoor security camera when you sign up for Fast Protect monitoring. Just visit simplysafe.com/criminality. That's simplysafe.com/criminality. There's no safe like SimpliSafe.
Hey, Prime members, have you heard? You can listen to your favorite podcasts ad-free? Good news! With Amazon Music, you have access to the largest catalog of ad-free top podcasts included with your Prime membership. To start listening, download the Amazon Music app for free or go to amazon.com/ad-free-podcast. That's amazon.com/ad-free-podcast to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads.
A little more of a repercussion, which...
Right.
Stay tuned.
Okay.
So he's trying to make things work in New York and LA, but the lawyers representing Barclays Bank of London, one of the creditors that PK had owed money to, said they're a little suspicious of this ruling because he's not living like someone who's bankrupt. So they go back to the judge and they're like, can you look into this? Because he's over there like starting businesses and he has a very expensive lifestyle. They proposed to the judge that PK had significant secret assets in the United States, which PK completely denies. According to the IB Times in the UK, Judge James Peck said Kemsley was a bankrupt who does not live like one, with ready to access abundant free cash. According to the same article, he lived in luxury, including a palatial New York apartment costing, give me a guess. I know I've given you little glimpses.
Is this monthly?
It's weirdly a weekly rental, but give me the monthly rent because 4 weeks in a month. So
monthly rent. Okay, I'm going to give you a Florida number. If somebody told me they paid $10,000 a month, I would lose my mind. Is it more than that?
It's so much more than that. So for,
like that is here, that would be, I would go to your castle and you would be my queen if you paid $10,000 a month
if that were
for a
my
home
budget,
here.
because we're looking right now, we would have like a comfortable 16 to 1800 square feet in a safe neighborhood. Like, you know what I mean? Like it would be nice, but it would not be anything to write home about.
Okay.
So
what do we got?
We're talking, well, for some reason they put it weekly, 15K a week. So 60 grand a month in rent. And this is around 10 years ago. And a property in Beverly Hills, Boca Raton, and Hollywood. So they were right to investigate.
Yeah. Like he's not even trying to live low.
No,
like,
exactly.
To stay under the radar.
Yeah. So the London courts start going after his U.S. assets because they're like, like they're not going to make a fool out of us. So everything he's now doing in the U.S. is susceptible in the U.K. So PK files for protection in New York, but the New York courts are like, yeah, sorry, no, you can pay Barclays back with your U.S. assets. So PK is officially now bankrupt in the U.S. and the U.K. because he can't pay it back. So he has to like get rid of all these properties, liquidate, do what people do in that process.
Good.
I know. So PK is now bankrupt, divorced, off The Apprentice, off the board of the Spurs, but he's in America, and America is the land of second chances. So I want to go to the next chapter of PK's story, the one that comes after Chapter 11, bankruptcy. But first, we'll take a quick break from this week's sponsors. So we're getting close to the part where PK meets his one true love. But before that, he tries his hand again at his first love, football, soccer. In 2011, PK announces he's going to bring back soccer team the New York Cosmos as their new chairman and president. I don't know how you if you self-appoint. I don't know who he knew because accolades and all his wealth signals are gone. So somehow he says, I'm going to resurrect the New York Cosmos. Do you know anything about the New York Cosmos?
I don't.
I didn't either. I do know we have like a New York Cosmos keychain floating around the house that I've had for years. And it all makes sense now, actually, why I have this random keychain. So the New York Cosmos were actually like a legendary, storied New York City soccer team from the late 1970s. Brazilian soccer legend Pele, who you probably have heard of, maybe, was on the team. So he just was like an icon, and the team just was magic. And people described it as a mix between sport and art. So I think they were like the cool kids of soccer in America.
Was it like the Harlem Globetrotters, but soccer?
Melissa, did you read my notes?
No.
Okay. You and PK need to team up. Hold that thought. So the team, I'm serious. So the team was famous, had a reputation for being cool. Team members went to Studio 54. They partied with Andy Warhol. But Americans' interest in soccer didn't hold the way it did in Europe. It didn't go back as far and it didn't last as long. It just kind of fizzled. So did the New York Cosmos. So when this weird guy from the UK announces he's going to revive the Cosmos in New York, everyone's like, what are you talking about? It's just the weirdest thing. All he has is this connection to Pele, more on that in a second, and a vision to rebrand the team to be a competitive team in the MLS, which is Major League Soccer. So that's like the pinnacle of American soccer. So to take them from, nowhere, like non-existent to that, it's again showing his just optimism, confidence, bravado.
Right.
And he decides if that doesn't work, he'll make the Cosmos something akin to the soccer version of the Harlem Globetrotters, who are not an actual seriously competitive team, but they're a money-making marketing product who also do charity shows, but they're successful because of branding and buzz and like the entertainment value.
Right.
So you're absolutely right. He was like, they'll either be amazing or they'll just be a spectacle and like people will pay a lot to see them. So The Guardian does an article, and asks him, like, how are you going to do this? And the quote here is, Kemsley declined the opportunity to discuss his plans for the Cosmos and how and by whom those plans would be financed. But the bill could run into the hundreds of millions of dollars if the Cosmos are ever to grace the professional soccer stage again. Kemsley may be lacking some of the essential football ingredients, but he is not short on confidence. Quote, it's going to be huge. Cosmos are back, he told guests at a party to pay homage to the soccer team. So here's another little clip of PK talking about the Cosmos in an interview in Vancouver. They're at a soccer game and the commentator says, hey, you're the guy bringing the Cosmos back. Tell me all about it.
No, we're very busy. We've been, as you probably know, actually, last 2 weeks I've had Eric Cantona in New York with me, training our PDL side, and I've been in Asia with Pele. So we've been busy. We're growing the brand, and we're talking at length with the MLS, and we're working on our stadium solutions. So it's a busy time for us.
We certainly remember the Cosmos in Vancouver.
Sure.
Had some tremendous games here. Always a huge excitement, sellout crowds. Is the excitement there in New York, the buzz about getting the Cosmos back?
No question. I mean, it's been unbelievable, but not only in New York, globally. I mean, we've been on a tour in Asia. They're excited there. I think we've had something like 1.4 billion impressions on the internet, and both the New York Cosmos and Eric Cantona were the #1 Google tweeting trends when we announced Cantona's appointment, and it's been unbelievable actually. We're selling merchandise already.
Okay. I mean, lots of confidence, lots of statistics he brings out, like talking about we were the #1 trending whatever, and we had 1.4 billion views. Like, nobody's going to go back and fact check that, so you can really say whatever the heck you want to, and I feel like that could have happened there.
Especially in the year 2011 when he said something like Google impressions on the internet or something. I mean, it was so like not even like the metrics people were generally referring to. Nobody then was definitely going to fact check. You're so right. And this explains how a keychain got into my house. Because at one point I had 3 kids playing soccer in New York City, and I know that team like was hawking their crap at something or partnered with one of my kids' football clubs, and hence this random keychain, which I will try to find and take a picture of.
Please do.
But this article goes on and says the expert who was talking about like how you bring a soccer team to life was saying that this is basically the reverse of conventional thinking. With the Cosmos, PK's aim is to build the brand and then build the team around it. And the expert goes on to say, this will not be cheap. It probably won't work, but it will be interesting. So I think people were kind of just watching like amused. So that was fun for me. Spoiler, I don't think much happened with the Cosmos. I think they might still exist, but they're nothing like, again, they're just trying to get my kids free merch. Sadly, Pele, who is the soccer legend, and PK named him president of the Cosmos, which did go a long way to galvanize excitement around it. He passed away in 2021, just recently, at age 79. Again, that did not help the more recent status of the Cosmos, but just a note that I didn't remember that he had passed, but that was sad. So PK is now working and living between LA and New York when he meets a swimsuit designer from Connecticut who has an ambiguous accent. That's right. Dorit Lemel, not sure how you pronounce her last name, but it's instant sparks, according to the write-up about their wedding in Wedding Style magazine. He asks her out on a proper date, but Dorit says she can't. They're at this lunch, and like right away he's like, let's go to dinner tonight. She's like, I've got to go to Hong Kong for business. And he's like, cancel your flight. She was a swimsuit designer, Melissa. I see your doubtful expression.
Okay, I'm listening.
This gets more and more Dorit. Just wait. He's like, cancel your flight. And she says something. I don't have the quote, but I wrote, my notes say she wouldn't think of it. So I think she said something like, I wouldn't hear of it or something. And but then she remembered her late grandmother's dying words. Her late grandmother had told Dorit that she would bring her a soulmate once she passed. So Dorit, if you can imagine, looked at PK and thought, must be him. I don't know that I'd make that leap meeting PK.
It's a big jump.
I might say, I'm going to wait a little.
Is he the only man that spoke to her since her grandma died?
All just like women and children? I don't know.
Yeah.
So she takes the leap and cancels the flight, and literally says the rest is history. The couple actually had little Jagger, who who we know and love,
Yes.
before they got married. And he's in their wedding photos in a little toddler tux, and it is
Aw.
freaking adorable. Their 2015 wedding, again, they have not been married that long, 7 years,
No. Mm-mm.
was at the Rainbow Room in New York City, which is an iconic venue. And the wedding was low key and understated. I'm just kidding. It was really
Oh,
lavish.
I was like, that doesn't sound
I
like
know.
her.
Super expensive. Art Deco inspired with crystal glass and feathers everywhere. Dorit was quoted as saying, "I felt like I was floating outside my body. I was filled with love and completely euphoric." Any guess on the musical guest at the reception?
If it wasn't Boy George, I would be shocked.
It indeed was. So we can finally get to the Boy George of it all.
Yes.
Yes, this is really why we're all here. So one of PK's post-real estate endeavors was running a talent management company called Nixie Entertainment. This company still exists, but there is no website. Very little activity
Ooh.
on LinkedIn. PK himself has 35 followers on LinkedIn. I dug around looking for some landing page for Nixie. And as far as I can see, his only clients to date have been Boy George and formerly Pele, who has passed. But we did see in a recent episode, he had another musical guest at that, was it the Homeless Not Toothless event, or was it a dinner before that? Melissa Etheridge.
Oh, it was before that.
It was whatever event happened before Homeless But Toothless. Maybe it was Kyle's birth.
No, it was.
No.
I thought it was Lisa Rinna something. They had that stupid table.
Oh, it was her
for...
cousin. It was her, her beauty brand party.
Okay.
I think this
Was it? I don't know.
charity, because it was at
It could have
PK
been.
Reed's house. It makes more sense. The reveal.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
bet you're right. Yeah.
So I guess maybe Melissa Etheridge, he said he knows their managers. I don't think he represents her. I think he had a connection to her.
No, that was a weird speech he gave too, because it had nothing to do with Melissa Etheridge and everything to do with him.
That's in a nutshell.
Which tracks.
Yeah, exactly. That says everything we need to know. Now, it has been, you said you didn't know this, but it has been casually mentioned on the show, and if not on the show, because I can't pinpoint the episode, in articles that Boy George is not just close with the family, he lives with them. To this, I say why?
Yeah.
What about his career has not allowed him to get his own home? It has also come out that they co-own their home with a co-investor / business partner. Is it Boy George? It has to be. Again, I ask why. I don't know. I couldn't find this information.
Right.
I got an idea, though. I feel like they need money.
Okay.
A new show, a sitcom. The Boy Downstairs. The boy is Boy George. And it features the lower level of their modern farmhouse.
Lower
I don't know,
level.
just an idea.
Yes.
Okay, so let's continue with PK and Dorit, who are now a joint venture in all of this. Now, PK and Dorit present well on the show. They have adorable kids, a loving relationship, designer clothes, large homes, fancy cars, but PK's financial troubles did not end with his bankruptcy. Dorit continues to work on her swimmer line, which previously, prior to meeting PK, was called Dorit, but was rebranded as per PK to be
Beverly Beach.
Beverly Beach, darling, which we watched unfold on the show. Now, even that got slammed by a lawsuit. In August of 2018, Dorit and PK were sued by their former business partner, Ryan Dorn, for allegedly owing him $205,000 for his work on the Beverly Beach swimsuit line, which I have to imagine his work was sizable.
Yeah.
I don't know that, they're churning out those bathing suits. A judge ordered that Dorit and Ryan had to go to mediation in January 2019. The pair worked out their legal matter outside of court, settled, undisclosed.
Right.
You know the drill. Then there's the small issue of their unpaid taxes reported to be upwards of $1.3 million. I don't know how PK didn't learn. I will give you the first time when you come into money and you're an entrepreneur and you don't know how to spend and set aside and do your taxes. He should know better by now.
I feel like the first rule of fame, how on Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, that creepy man comes up to each of the kids and whispers in their ear, in the whatever, and kind of tells them a secret. As soon as you get your first check, when you're a celebrity or whatever, you need that creepy man coming into your ear and saying, I know an accountant, and you need to listen to him.
Well, listen, this is brilliant. This has to happen. Get a tax accountant.
It is not difficult to get one. It's
I
not
know.
nearly
They
as
all have
expensive as
business
it's going to be to
managers.
fix
I
it.
don't understand. Like I think there's just this like vicious vortex of greed and like nobody wants to like part with the millions.
Yeah, but
That's
you're
brilliant.
going to have to eventually.
Exactly. One way or another, they'll either like take it from you or you can give it to them.
Right.
And then there's their current mansion. You know, they moved a few times on the show, and I have to say, this current house, my favorite of all of their
Yeah.
houses. It is pretty dreamy. They just moved into it, but a year later they put it on the market for 9.5 million. They've reduced it to $8 million. Now, this is as of the end of last year. I don't know what the current status is, but they could not sell it for 8. It was listed for rent at 75,000 a month. So I think they're still there. Although no, what we're watching now is last year. So I don't know right now if they've sold it or rented it, if they're there, if Boy George is there. No idea.
And this is the same house that was broken into.
Yes. So their next trouble comes from a lawsuit from Boy George's business manager, whom you'd think they'd be on good terms with.
Right.
But no, Nikos, who has a last name, alleges that he loaned PK. Also, come on.
Stop.
$1.2 million, but that PK only paid him back $250,000. So apparently the two have worked this out, but not before he had to hit him with a lawsuit and make it public.
Yeah.
So PK resolved it, and he resolved his gambling debts, as we know, in London, but that didn't stop him from racking up debt at the Bellagio in Vegas, which PK tried to get out of by saying he was bankrupt. Bellagio was like, no, we're suing you for $3.6 million because that is the casino marker amount we gave you in good faith that you didn't. So he was given like a I don't even know how gambling works, but I know that they
I
get
don't either.
chip. It was worth $3.6 million marker. So he gambled with that, lost it, and they want their money back. So he did make an initial payment of $875,000 on the debt. But then because of his bankruptcy, he was unable to get more money. Bellagio says, we didn't know about your bankruptcy. We still want our money. So in 2015, he worked out a deal to pay the Bellagio back, but allegedly he stopped paying the debt a few years later. This is all according to New York Post. Earlier, just this year, 2022, it was announced that the Bellagio had taken further legal action against PK, claiming they were still owed over 1.7. So whatever he chiseled away out, it was like about half. Finally, PK's lawyer comes out. A lot of months go by, and his lawyer says, Paul Kemsley and Bellagio have resolved their differences. Bellagio is looking forward to having PK and Dorit at the Bellagio soon, and PK and Dorit are looking forward to enjoying all the Bellagio has to offer. End quote. Wow.
Whoa.
Tell me.
No, Joey from Blossom. That's a Joey from Blossom.
Whoa.
I mean, I guess it's good rep. I don't know how to feel about any of that. I cannot imagine living my life being $3.1 million in debt and then like having Dorit pose like this against a window in head to toe designer wear. I'd be like, we are selling all of this.
I know it's not as bad as Erica Jane, but it's really close. Like it's in poor taste.
Still gross.
It's not criminal. Well, actually, if they owe creditors, it might be. To me, what's so audacious about the lawyers, I mean, lawyer's going to lawyer, the spin on this is like, all good. Bellagio can't wait to have them, and they can't wait to go back. If it were me, I would never step foot in the Bellagio again.
Never. I wouldn't even go in the same state as the Bellagio.
Right?
I just would be terrified. It would be humiliating.
No Vegas. Like, that's over.
Oh my gosh. That's so much. But what is your intention? Just to show off and say, I have this $3.6 million amount that I can bet and hope it works out? Because that is wild to go in. I don't know. I was always told to not like spend money I don't have. Yeah, I'm still paying student loans from when I was 20, and I'll be paying them for 5 more years. So I haven't always done that, but it is wild to me in those kind of numbers to do something so stupid as gambling. You know what I mean? It's not like he wasn't investing in anything.
But I really,
this is a lot.
The feeling I get is it's all about pretense. Like you said, I think
totally.
He was good for it, and that matters to him, that he's good for that amount of like a good faith gesture.
Right.
The thing is, he's not like at all. That's kind of on the Bellagio. But so now PK has mostly sorted out lawsuits and debts, but as any Real Housewives of Beverly Hills watcher / listener of this show knows there is more to this story. This is when we get into the more criminal side of things that are very recent. This season of Beverly Hills opened with the shocking home invasion of Dorit and PK, and I'm fairly confident our audience will be familiar with that story. But for anyone who isn't, the brief rundown is October of 2021, 3 men entered PK and Dorit's home around 11 p.m., broken through windows on the first floor. Dorit did not have their home alarm on, and they came up to Dorit's bedroom, held a gun to her head, and demanded jewelry, bags. I mean, just honestly, the season opened with this episode. We talked about it. It was like edge of your seat dramatic.
Right.
And it was real. It was crazy that it was playing out on the show.
Yeah.
Now, normally the kids would have slept in her bed because when PK goes away on business, the kids sleep with her. So PK was out of town. They were home. I think the intruders probably assumed they were out of town, but Dorit had come home before PK. And normally the kids would sleep with her because he was out of town. But for whatever reason, they didn't, thankfully, and didn't go to the kids' room. So she pleads for her life, shows them where her stuff is, and they left with $100,000 worth of items, bags, jewelry, etc., wrapped in her duvet cover. She begs them to spare her life. They take her phone from her, but they say they will leave it at the front gate and to wait a while for them to leave. And they do. There's footage outside of her home of them placing her cell phone and then leaving. The suspects remain at large, and currently there are no arrests, and the LAPD has a video of the men entering her home on their website, like the full length. It's like 5 minutes long. It's terrifying. But you could never identify them from this. Like, they are so well masked and hoodied and gloved. And this, I think, is when I started being charmed by PK, because he comes home from London and he is the hero. He is so comforting. He is so sweet. He is so shaken up. I mean, the real emotion, I love when genuine emotion and real feelings come out on these shows, even if it's like through tragedy. I love real and I love authenticity. And this just showed a different side of them. They were incredibly vulnerable, and it was an incredibly scary thing that happened. But every hero needs a fall. And just when PK was starting to appear winsome to us, just a handful of episodes later, we find out that PK got a DUI. So PK was arrested and cited on November 23rd of the same year on suspicion of a DUI while out at dinner with business colleagues. And if you are wondering who those business colleagues are, I would just watch the show. And Melissa, you can go ahead and run that clip because he will tell you. There's the official story from PK's lawyer that says, while out with a business colleague, PK consumed a glass of wine with dinner. That was his attorney, Alan Jackson. But I much prefer PK's story that he tells on the show.
Been to Vegas lately?
I have. I went to Lionel's Rich's opening. When I got pulled for the DUI, I had dinner with Lionel and John Legend that night. And the policeman says, "Where have you been?" I said, "Out for dinner." "Who with?" I said, "John Legend and Lionel Richie." He must have thought you were an asshole. You know what I mean? You were an asshole. So funny. So that wasn't a great start, and then the whole thing went from bad to worse. So the real lesson is, when you think you're okay, you may not be. Yeah.
How did John Legend and Lionel Richie get drug into that is what I want to know.
I know. I blame Boy George, I guess. I don't know. But boy, did he love telling that story. And was it low-key shady of Rob to be like, "Have you been to the Bellagio lately?" Or did he say Vegas?
He said Vegas, but I loved it. Rob knew what he was there to do.
Yeah,
he knew.
Right?
I actually love Rob and Crystal together. I think they're great. Great couple.
Yeah, total sidebar. Just when she was talking to him about her eating disorder and the girl's response, and his face, his look of like concern for her was so sincere and not self-aware that he was on television. I could tell. And again, that's what I'm here for, seeing those real moments. I like them too. So I don't know. There's a lot of talk about PK's DUI. To me, it like smacks of privilege. Like, they gave him a ride. They did the test after time lapse. And then it is such nonsense. Like, he was not treated the way many people, particularly not white wealthy men would be treated in the same situation. Right. So you might be wondering, where do PK and Dorit go from here? They've cleaned up the worst of their financial messes, not all, but close. And literally, I wonder, where are they going to go? Because they got to move out of that house. I was shocked to read a 2022 article from earlier in the year in House Beautiful magazine that said the couple is London bound to film a new TV show. I haven't heard this anywhere. No. So I don't know if things have changed, but according to January 2022, House Beautiful, they're going to film a new show called Selling Super Prime, which is described as an intoxicating mix of super luxe properties, rich reality, and cutthroat competition. PK is quoted as saying, after 12 years out of real estate, I feel the time is right for my return to an industry and city that I love. When the credit crunch hit, I lost the business it had taken 15 years to build. I had no choice but to file bankruptcy and start again. The USA loves a comeback story and afforded me that opportunity. Now it's time for me to share my knowledge, help the next group of young, aspiring entrepreneurs right here in the UK.
Get over yourself.
Like super prime literally sounds predatory. Like, I don't know, super prime, subprime. It's just.
I immediately thought Selling Sunset, like it's a Selling Sunset spinoff or something. Please don't make us go through that.
That's what they're going to make us go through in London. So in closing, a la Carrie Bradshaw, I had to wonder. I don't know what year Boy George and PK met, but is it possible that the lyrics to his song, Everything I Own, were about PK? If you don't remember, I would give everything I own, give up my life, my heart, my home. I would give everything I own just to have you back again. Yeah, so that's the very long story of PK.
I truly knew about 1% of that. I definitely didn't know how those two met. And I didn't know his kids were so young. I
know.
I guess I just thought he was quite a bit older than Dorit, like decades older than Dorit for some reason. But seeing all this video and stuff, I'm like, there's no way. He just has gray hair.
55, which isn't that old. I mean, my husband is not far behind him and looks sorry, but a lot.
Yeah, no. You're good. Okay, so he still could have had kids whenever he was 18 or whatever. So that's kind of what I thought.
35. Yeah. He does seem older than that. And his youngest, I think, is only 18 right now. So again, this happened in quick succession, like the marriage, the 3 kids, the divorce. It was, like 8 years or something.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Those two things.
Super interesting. I mean, I truly had no idea about anything in his past, including the Boy George connection. I honestly thought he had always been in music. That was my understanding because of the Boy George and how he always talks about Boy George and Melissa Etheridge and all that. So I assumed he had been some big shot producer in the UK.
No, he has this random talent agency, and the one connection is Boy George, which there has to be a story as to how that even came to be. I couldn't find it, but you didn't know a lot, but you made some very accurate leaps, like the way you think like PK. I hate to say.
Okay, take that back.
I'm just kidding. I have to say there were many times during my research that I was like, I think my biggest fear might be that I am like him in some weird ways. I don't have that confidence, but I do have how could I market this? Or what is the brand angle? I do have a little bit of that, but I like to think it's built a little bit more on substance and something that actually exists.
Yeah. Well, skip the brand part because they are big, homeless, not toothless people. So right there,
That's
their
true.
branding is a little screwed up. No, I think you've got the entrepreneurial, however you say that word with an eel at the end, spirit about you. And that's similar, but you're not him. And are we voting on whether or not he's winsome?
We have to, but wait, before we do, there was nowhere I could insert this in the story, but I mean, is there any place where we see his marketing genius more than naming Dorit's wedding dresses with her Nectaria line? Do you remember that scene?
Oh yeah.
That lives on as one of my
Briefly.
favorites. So she's like, I'm doing wedding gowns now. And she comes out modeling each one, looking smoking in every single one. So she's in a head to toe white tight dress with pearls, 15,000 pearls on. He's like, I know, we'll call it the pearl. And then for each one, and he's like, the moment, the actress. And Dorit's like, oh, so brilliant. Oh, hello. So chic. Wish I could have talked more about Dorit, but this was very much about PK.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
So, okay, just to set the scene, we are answering the question, is PK winsome? Listeners, we also want to hear from you. So please let us know on Instagram when we post about this episode. Do you find PK winsome? Okay, ready, Melissa? 3, 2, 1. Yeah.
No, I knew it. I knew it.
I'm sorry. It's probably the accent. I think I'd love to be around him. I would love to meet him. I'd be charmed by him. I wouldn't want to go into business with him. I wouldn't trust my money with him. I think at heart he is not a bad guy. There was nothing in this story. Usually some douchebaggery comes out. Like,
Sure.
He made a lot of crappy decisions, but he was never a jerk to anybody, except on The Apprentice. I guess he was. That was kind of his brand, but I didn't see that footage. So I as far as I'm concerned, it's all lore.
Listen, even when we were doing the countdown, I felt a little conflicted looking at that picture of him and Mauricio and how like silly they look.
He got him a belt. Like, he needs to flow his role with the Versace, but like,
I just don't, I would not want to be around him. He's somebody I absolutely would not want to be around. I wouldn't want to meet him. I wouldn't want to hear his stories.
I think I'd have to meet him. I think if I saw him having a drink at an upscale Manhattan bar, I'd have to say hi, which is weird because I wouldn't do that to everybody. But in the realm of housewife husbands, he is not the worst.
No. He's really not. He's upper. He's one of the better ones, which tells you how crappy these men are.
I know that's true, and you're right. You make I mean, yeah.
No,
I'm standing
winsome
by
is what you called it.
Standing by it, but I understand that, like, being so obsessed with outward appearances and materialism, like, that's generally not something I respond positively to.
Right.
And yet, therein lies the enigma and mystery of PK Kemsley, I guess.
There you go. Yeah. It was his Melissa Etheridge. I think that speech is what pushed me over, where I'm like, this is nothing about Melissa Etheridge and everything about you being connected to her manager. So that's where he lost me. Almost got me.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for going on that journey.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So what have you been watching? Because I know you told me a couple things about it that sound like I'll like it.
Okay, so one thing I've been watching right off the bat, I just want to say this one because I think people should watch it. The Manti Tayo, the catfishing, the girlfriend who didn't exist. If you haven't seen it, watch it. It's so good. I don't want to give clues and go into it, but if you remember the catfishing story, it's incredible. It's about forgiveness and all that stuff, and I loved it. Okay, that's not my real recommendation, but you should watch it. Well, it is my recommendation, but here's what I was watching. Ready?
Yeah.
HBO Max.
Yeah.
Contract Killer.
Okay.
Bill Hader.
Oh, yeah.
You got it.
Oh, you told me this already.
I did.
Melissa, I've watched it.
Do you want the first letter?
Yes.
B.
Barry.
You got it. Okay.
Yes. It's good.
Okay. It's so good. So Barry is a show about Bill Hader. As this contract killer, he goes to kill somebody in this acting class and realizes he might actually like acting and decides to become an actor, which upsets the person who has him, doing these contract killing. The side characters on this show are so hilarious. There's one guy in particular, and I don't remember what his name is right offhand, but truly like LOLing the whole time. Like, he sends a text message to Bill Hader about somebody he was supposed to kill, and it said, "He's dead. Congratulations." And you know how on text messages when you write happy birthday and the like things shoot off?
The confetti.
That's literally the message that Bill Hader gets, and just like it's so funny. Number one, if you've been watching this show, I'm angry at you because you didn't tell me about it. Not you, just listeners in general. I'm fighting listeners. But I had started it before, and I think just about everyone I know had at least tried one episode and just didn't stick with it.
Mm-hmm.
If you can keep going, because even the first episode on a rewatch was not bad, but for whatever reason, I just wasn't into it when it started, and I burned through those 3 seasons. It is so good, so funny. The last season's kind of dark, but it's incredible.
What a brilliant concept for a show.
Right?
So funny. And to me, like, the actor who pulls that off is key, and he is perfect.
So good.
Did start it, but I was already like knee deep in something else, so I didn't stick.
Yeah.
I will absolutely go back to it because I did find it really weird and funny, and I like the girl from acting class. She's
Oh yeah.
quintessentially the girl from acting class.
I was wondering how you felt about all the characters that are in acting class, because it seemed, I mean, it pokes fun at itself.
Painful. The tropes are just so accurate.
Yeah, I loved it. And Henry Winkler's in it. He's amazing in it.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, if you've ever thought about trying it, you absolutely should. And it is so funny. And there's 3 whole seasons to watch. It gets kind of dark, but really good.
Didn't realize there were 3 seasons. That's exciting. No, that's really a good one. Good recommendation. And also Dax Shepard just brought up that documentary, The Girlfriend Who Didn't Exist, or The Ex-Girlfriend Who
The Girlfriend Who Didn't Exist, I think.
Girlfriend Who Didn't Exist, and raved about it. And then you did. We talked about that offline. So 2 people I trust very much.
Thank you. On Netflix. It's amazing.
Netflix. I'm definitely
He is amazing, I should say.
Yeah, he sounds incredible. I mean, Dax was like gushing about him. Just like what an upstanding human.
Oh yeah. He went through so much and still offers forgiveness. So it's pretty incredible.
Okay, well, I'm gonna follow your lead and just not do the clues because I don't want to get into this show because it's so sad and so heavy, but so good. I'm watching Dope Sick on Hulu, and I just I cannot recommend it more highly. Michael Keaton, Rosario Dawson, Peter Sarsgaard, and it's about the opioid crisis that began, in the 90s through now, in different regions. But there's like 2 stories going on. There's like the personal stories of people's like injuries that lead to the painkiller, that lead to the addiction and the fallout of their life, coinciding with the Department of Justice going after the pharmaceutical company Purdue to take the company down. So it's like both like a legal drama and this like heart-wrenching personal drama. Oh, I think it's like required watching, honestly, because this is such a huge issue. But trigger warning if it could be really tough for people who've experienced that in their life or their family. But such a good show. Dope Sick, Hulu. Okay.
Did it come out a while ago or is it fairly new? Because
it's a couple years old.
Okay, I thought I'd heard of it before, but I didn't know.
Yeah, it's not brand new. I was surprised. I'm like, I don't know why I'm just now hearing about this.
Yeah. Oh, I definitely want to watch that.
It's like one of those sleepers that kind of, I don't know, I missed it when it came out, I think 2 or 3 years ago. Okay. But I'm so happy because I have something a little bit more like fun. I have no idea if this is on your radar or not. It wasn't on mine at all. 3 clues. Netflix, India, love.
Is that Indian Matchmaker?
Of course.
Okay.
I don't know. So you've seen it or you've seen?
I haven't. I've just seen Netflix tries to get me to watch it. Yeah.
Yeah. Not something I think I would have chosen, but my mom recommended it. Thank you, Barbara. Here's a description. Drawing from decades of experiences, insights, and traditional methods, Mumbai's premier matchmaker, Seema Taparia, strives to help single people find their perfect match. So what I like about it is that it is a reality dating show.
Sure.
But it combines like the history of India and arranged marriage with the modern preferences of these young people who want to meet and approve of the person they're going to marry. So it's interesting because it explores the tension of arranged marriages, but it's very much like it comes down on the side of like a lot of families are participating in like a hybrid version of it currently, where they're not just arranging it. So families are actually coming together and hiring Seema, this amazing matchmaker woman. Like she's carrying the show.
Okay.
And she's got this great way with the younger generation and she's setting them up on dates. And so you follow all these different men and women, and it's not just in India, it's Indian people also living in the US, in Chicago, and New York, and New Jersey. So it's really cool because it goes from the US to India. So it's gorgeous because everything in India is just like so vibrant and it's shot really well. It's kind of like it's like Bling Empire in India. Like it's just pulling out all the beauty of a culture. And I'm really enjoying it. It's wholesome. Like I know we all love a Love is Blind and those, but these are like really, for the most part, they seem like really decent people. I'm only a few episodes in. I just started it again. My mom just recommended it and I needed I was coming off of Dope Sick, which is a weird choice of word because
Coming off of watching the Hulu original Dope Sick. Or was it a
yes.
Hulu original? I don't know.
Yes, it is, I believe. So it was a really nice palate cleanser,
Yeah.
and I recommend it.
Nice. I do want to watch it. It's one that, because this isn't its first season, right? It was another
No, it's
season.
season 2, and I should say I started with season 2 because my mom did. So I just like jumped in so I could talk to her. But it's following some people who like trailed over since season 1, so I do
Got
need to
it.
go back. But you could totally pick up in the current season and be fine.
Mhm.
There's like one woman who's pretty annoying, and you kind of love to hate her. But otherwise, everyone's pretty likable.
Yeah.
in not a boring way. You know, sometimes
Okay.
that's just boring. It's not.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. I agree.
There's enough.
Oh, awesome.
It's just unique enough that it's interesting. So I'm
Very
enjoying
cool.
it.
Yeah, I want to try that too. I definitely want to do Dope Sick
Oh,
because I just remember hearing about it, seeing it, and then for whatever reason, once they take it off the rotation, I forget
of
about it.
course. Also, I heard about it through armchair expert Dax and Monica were talking about it.
Oh, okay.
So happy to plug them twice because they really need to
They
grow.
need it.
Your
They
audience
need
is
it.
so tiny. But the other person that's in that's incredible is the girl who was in Believe Her on Netflix. Did you watch
Okay.
that?
I saw
She's-
the thing. I didn't see it though.
She's this young actress. She's just so good, but it is heart-wrenching, this show. Just full warning.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the next episode of Criminality.
Okay. So I would like to preface this by saying,
Oh, okay.
2 weeks ago, swing and a miss. Scott Stapp, turns out no one gives a crap about him. I'm very well aware now.
Look, they
By
can all
not
do it.
saying anything, you guys spoke so much. So next time, do I have a show for you?
Oh,
I feel
boy.
like this is the one for me. All right, you
Okay.
ready?
Yeah.
Here's my 3 clues.
Okay.
First one, multiple. Second, Ed Hardy.
I know.
Third, DJ.
Oh, I am so excited.
I know. I think it'll be fun.
Oh, don't get me started on Ed Hardy. It's like
Yep.
Carson Daly for me. Just
Oh, yeah. Oh, I heard on a podcast the other day, somebody was like, how do you like Nashville? And he's like, well, Carson Daly's doing some kind of show here with Blake Shelton. And now I hate it here. And I was like, oh, that's got big Rebekah energy there.
absolutely. I cannot wait for this.
Yes. I can't believe it hasn't come up on my list earlier, but I needed a redemption one after me and
Okay.
Scott Stapp and missing the mark on that. So I'm excited.
Coming hot next episode. I
Mhm.
love it. Well, look, yeah, I've had a couple that were not fan favorites, shall we say.
Do
and
not try
our-
to comfort me.
It's
I need to sit in
comfort.
this
I know. Sit in the discomfort.
so I
Listen,
don't do it again.
how nice are our listeners though? They wouldn't dare write. Not my
No.
favorite. This sucked. They just don't
Melissa, what were
write.
you thinking? Yeah. Like I didn't care about them then, don't care about them now. What's wrong with you? Take the Florida out of this show. They didn't do any of that.
No, we have the nicest listeners.
For sure.
And so, hey, if you are a nice person and like our show, you can definitely leave us a review on Apple
Yes.
Podcast or wherever you listen. And you can follow us on TikTok. Melissa comes up with great ideas and she activates quickly because that's the name of the
Yeah.
game on TikTok.
Yeah. It's just you got 2 seconds. I don't do a lot of editing and it's up.
Yeah. And
It's forever.
it's a very PK approach to social media. And that's
And I have the
required.
confidence to do
on-
it.
Yes, the bravado is real. And we're also on Instagram at Criminality Show. And everything else is in the show notes. But as always, thank you for listening. And you can catch Melissa on Tuesdays on her other show, Moms and Murder.
And you can catch Rebekah twice a week if you listen to this show twice a week while she's on her summer hiatus from Dialogue.
Wait, twice a week?
You can listen to her twice a week if you listen to the episodes twice a
That's
week.
true.
Just double listen. Skip
That's
the
true.
Scott one and then go back to other ones.
That's true. And if anyone is heading to the Obsessed Fest at the end of September, I will be there hosting True Crime Trivia. So if you're into True Crime Trivia and
Nice.
True Crime Podcast, the Obsessed Fest is in Ohio the last weekend of September. And I'll be there.
Nice.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you for listening to Criminality. If you're enjoying the show, please head over to Apple Podcast or wherever you listen and give the show a rating and review. The reality is it would be a crime to keep your thoughts to yourself.
And come join the fun outside of the podcast and follow us on social media. We are at Criminality Show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Memes are welcome. We'll see you in 2 weeks with a new episode. Until then, you can catch my co-host Melissa on her weekly show, Moms and Murder.
And Rebecca Sebastian on her podcast, Dialogue, a true crime conversation. Don't forget, loving reality
Isn't a crime.